Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm just looking at myself here on StreamYard and realising that there's quite a lot of curly hair there this morning. Happy, beautiful, outstanding you day. We're an hour early. It's not even 8 o'clock. It's Saturday the 28th of October and it's 7 o'clock in the morning. And I have promised in the pre-live to this to be explaining why we are here or why I am here 1 hour before. So good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm literally on my own in LinkedIn, which I think is a fantastic thing to say. Belonging in business all on my own. It's probably got a bit of a challenge this morning as it's an hour early, but we can't be live and early because live is the time it's meant to be. But imagine if Coronation Street just rocked up at 6:30 in the evening instead of 7:30. Goodness me, like that only happens on a royal day, doesn't it? Like on a wedding, on a royal wedding. I'm not sure. Just bear with me a minute. Alexa, stop. Alexa, stop. Do you know? I could turn the Alexa off before I go live, couldn't I? But nobody's here, so it doesn't matter. But imagine if Coronation Street just rocked up at 6:30. Imagine. I think it only happens on a royal wedding day. I'm not sure such an important thing has happened, but some things are happening, that's for sure. And I will go on to those later. So it's 7 o'clock. It's Saturday, the 28th of October. It is just before winter solstice. And I am Mandy Jane Lace. And I'm speaking live in Belonging in Business through Learning on LinkedIn. And we're also on StreamYard. We're also on Facebook if you're there. We are on Twitter. We are on Twitch. And I think that might be it. But if you know anywhere else, let me know. Let me know if you know where we are. Or if you sent me anywhere else, I think you can restream these streams as well. It all gets very complicated. I'll be everywhere all the time. So I'm Mandy Jane. I'm a Senko, an Elenco in Wales. You must have heard that. You must have heard me say that, hey Adam, again and again and again. I'm a Senko, an Elenco in Wales, and we are here an hour early. I was just saying, Adam, imagine if Coronation Street just rocked up at 6:30 instead of 7:30. There'd be hell on. It's not even a royal wedding. Anyway, so I'm a Senko and Elenco. I'm going to tell you why we're early in a little while. I've been teaching in SEN, that's special educational needs or specific educational needs, for 2 decades now. Now, that's for sure, as I had my 20-year anniversary this month of being in business for 2 decades, which seems ridiculous because I feel like I only just got started. And a member of my coaching team who coaches me, my coach is Pete Cohen, always says he's only just got started. And he's a genius at presenting, performing, delivering words and content. He's a performer to outwit most performers. And he definitely has a capability with the spoken word. Sorry if you can hear the fact that I'm still quite full of this chest infection. I dream of having his capability. Dream of being able to perform the way that Pete does. But practice makes progress, right, Pete? If you're listening to this back. Well, we'll see. This is my practice ground, my development space. And I'm going to see what this space evolves into. Because this is the only thing I can do, apparently, without anyone focusing me, without any personal assistant, without any, PDA. I don't experience PDA when this is my focus in this moment. Pete talks about making tapes as a child of him talking and playing songs for people. And he made tapes for people when they went away or whatever. Maybe these are my childhood tapes. Maybe I'm creating my blueprint for the future. Maybe this is the rollout of the blueprint that I've been developing over these 20 years in business. As I've struggled through the creation of, another thing I've nodded to already this morning, which is Scribopoly. I created a game called Scribopoly, and I'm going to tell you about that. And the game of life that I've had to develop to manage my chronic and enduring conditions. I'm wondering why Facebook is saying Remember to be live on Facebook. Apparently, I already am live, but there we are. Scrabbopoly, the game that I created. So Scrabble, we know about Scrabble, don't we? Scrabble's a game where we get tiles out of a bag, and each tile has a number, a score, and we make words. And each of those words add up to a score because each of those tiles has a score on them. So if you've got an X in your word, you've definitely got 10 points because X is 10. I don't think it's the same for Z, but they all have different scores with the common letters like A and E and I and O and U. You know, there's vowels, they just get one. So you can imagine that Scrabble adds up the letters to make the score of the word, and then your word is pitched against your opponents to see whose score is greater. Well, I play Scrabble with the letters after my name, and I have more letters after my name than I have in my name. And then the game of life, well, Monopoly, if anyone knows what Monopoly is the game by which you go around the board collecting different properties and having different opportunities for investment. And when you go around the board, you get £200 for passing go, just for getting around the board. So if we put Scrabble and Monopoly together, well, we get Scrabbopoly. And I've been playing Scrabbopoly since I came out of school and realised that the letters after my name were really important. And I'm diagnosed as having a complex presentation. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. You've just described Scrabbopoly. But at the core of it, it's called autism. I'm neurodivergent. This is still a no-no, all right? Particularly in professional quarters. Literally, I'm allowed to be ADHD and take stimulants to function and still be viewed as capable, you know, cognitively intact with ADHD. Although there are still some who view learning differences as less than. They will fall away shortly, as this is definitely an old-fashioned belief which has to alter totally. We're all individual, and we need to begin from this point of knowing we can achieve anything if we want to believe we can achieve anything in belonging or in business or in learning or any other subject we've talked about here. That old-fashioned belief has to fall away. But the idea of being openly autistic is even challenging for those in the field, those whose family and children get a diagnosis, but they don't talk about themselves necessarily. A lady who I respect very greatly is Olga Bogdashina, but she's an example of a woman who recognised autism and the sensory differences we experience, but she still talks in an us and them way of explaining. And I truly believe that some of these academics, these presenters, I'll bring people up just when I finish. Thank you. Good morning, Jew. These academics, these presenters, these authors, these researchers might feel like they've learned their way out of their neurodivergence. Oh, I hear, oh, she doesn't seem autistic. He didn't sound autistic. She seemed to accept what I said very well. She wasn't argumentative. She doesn't seem to exhibit demand avoidant behaviours. Something else I'll go on to in a minute. Well, or this one. He did make eye contact. Are you sure he's autistic? Well, today I can tell you I am absolutely still autistic. I still get a battering heart in my chest whenever I think I might have possibly or could have possibly done something wrong, whatever wrong is. I'm absolutely certain that whichever degree I attempt to do, it will be far too complicated for me to understand, and it takes me too long to get the big picture, far longer than other people. Often I have to disappear down rabbit holes to research to understand something particularly perplexing to me, and I miss early fundamental learning that's necessary for the whole, for understanding the whole meaning, as I have to revisit concepts again and again, each time gaining a little more on that tricky area of learning. But I have to accept this difference in learning style and my absorption of what I see as difficult information. I have to accept that my learning difference is just that. It's a learning difference, not a deficit. So to return to the point of today's conversation for me, it's about learning to learn. In fact, learning that the entire point of learning is learning to learn is what I've had to learn. That's a lot of words learning, a lot of learn words there. So it's about learning to learn and learning that the entire point of my learning is learning to learn. So with my PDS, that's pathological demand syndrome, PDA, avoidance syndrome, and my autism, I need the firing squad against the wall scenario. I need there to be a deadline. I must be put into a routine, so a structure. And I take time to adopt that structure. I've been developing my writing in these rooms for these contents for 2 years, and it began slowly. I could just about come up with a paragraph, something I wanted to say, which took me agonizing amounts of thinking about, and the fear of writing and honing what I said and expressing it and making meaning over it. But since writing for 2 years, I'm able to sit down before these spaces and design, to construct, to release, to create this space for myself and for us. Why? Well, how? What? What am I talking about today when I'm talking about learning and belonging through learning? I have to move from the sensation of what I've got to say, a burning desire to express something that's unexpressed. It's a sensation I've realised that creates a surge that begins from my tummy, and it builds into this expression, this crescendo. This is my writing process. It's painful, actually. Oh, I'm not even on. I've just realised. Thank you for putting your hand up there. I've just realised I've not even opened my microphone on here, which is interesting, because what that means is I could go back to the beginning, and I probably should. Hey, who knows? There's 2 of us. Somebody left. I don't blame them. Good morning. So I've been talking for 10 minutes to myself. Well, not to myself, but every other environment except here. I'm going to talk about belonging in business being a bit challenging today because it's an hour early. Imagine if Coronation Street rocked up an hour early, 6:30. And that only happens on a royal day, doesn't it? And I've said all this already today. For those listening everywhere else, they'll think I'm on Groundhog Day. And maybe that's what Groundhog Day is today, because there's a reason we're late. And if Adam stays around, he'll get to hear why we're late. And thank you for hanging about when there was no noise. Anyway, it's not a royal day, like a wedding. I'm not sure an important thing has happened, but something is happening for sure, I can tell you that. So, I'm Mandy Jane. I'm a Senko, an Elenco in Wales. I've been teaching special educational needs or specific educational needs for 2 decades now. And that's for sure, because I've just had my 20-year anniversary this month of being in business, the 9th of October, 2003. 2 decades seems ridiculous because it feels like I've only just got started. And of course I have only just got started because I haven't unmiked. It seems ridiculous that I've only just got started. And my coach, Pete Cohen, says he's only just got started. And he's a genius at presenting, at performing, at delivering words and contents. He's a performer to outwit most performers. And he has a capability with the spoken word I dream of having. But practice makes progress, right, Pete, if you're listening back to this. This is my practice ground, and I've just had one practice at this. My development space, and we'll see what this evolves into. Me saying it twice, usually. Apparently, this is the only thing I can do without needing anyone to focus me, without needing a personal assistant to organise me, without the effects of my PDA. I'll go on to that. This is my focus in this moment. Pete talks about making tapes as a child. He talks about recording himself talking and making songs and then giving people a tape for them to listen to when they went away or whatever. Maybe these are my childhood tapes for you. Maybe I'm creating a blueprint for your future. maybe this is the rollout of my blueprint that I've developed over 20 years in business as I've struggled through that creation of my Scrubopoly and the game of life that I've managed to develop to manage my conditions. So Scrubopoly for me for the second, third, fourth time, 44th time maybe, I've said it a lot to people, is the game of Scrabble. And Scrabble, if you know it, is a game by which we have tiles and they all have a score, and we make words and we pitch ourselves against each other with our words, our Scrabble words, and those words add up to a score. If you've got a Z in your word, you've got a 10 points guaranteed because Z gets 10. So you're trying to get the highest score word, and it's whoever managed to lay down that with the 7 tiles they have. It's a great, great game. Well, I have likened the letters after my name to Scrabble, where I've ascribed the score to each of those letters. And I've got more letters after my name than in my name. So it means I'm pretty good when it comes to applying Scrabble to those letters. But there's no Z's yet. I don't have zoology. And even if I did, I'm not sure that's what you get in the letter after your name. You get PhD or BSc or MA or MA. I actually have Mama, which I like. Mama food. Busk Mama food. Amda. All of them create different words. And when they go together, there's more after than in my name. And then I play Monopoly. Monopoly is when we go around the game of life collecting opportunities for investment and of making our mark on the board and of becoming a tycoon. When you mix those together, I believe that every stop on the board has collected me a degree or a qualification, giving me the letters that add to my Scrubopoly score, allowing me to move through this thing I call life. Now, I'm diagnosed as having a complex presentation. No shit, Sherlock. Complex. That entire game's too complex for us to understand on a Saturday morning before 8 o'clock, woman. But at its core of it, it's autism. I'm neurodivergent. This is still a no-no, particularly in professional quarters. I'm literally allowed to be ADHD and take stimulants to function and still be viewed as capable, cognitively intact with ADHD, although there are some who still see learning differences as less than. These will fall away shortly, as this is an old-fashioned belief and one which needs to change, as we're all individual and we need to begin from that point that we can achieve anything if we are going to in belonging or in business or in learning or in any other subject that we've talked about here. That needs to change. But the idea of being openly autistic is even a challenge for those in the field whose children and family get a diagnosis like mine, but not themselves, although I was different in that regard. Olga Bogdashina is the example of a woman who recognizes autism and the sensory differences that expresses, but she still talks in an us and them way of explaining. And I truly believe that some of these academics, these presenters, these authors, these researchers might feel that they've learned their way out of their neurodivergence. Oh, I hear she doesn't seem autistic. It didn't sound autistic. She seemed to accept what I said very well. She wasn't argumentative. She doesn't seem to exhibit demand avoidant behaviours. He did make eye contact. Are you sure he's autistic? Well, today I can tell you I am absolutely still autistic. I still get a battering heart in my chest whenever I think I might have possibly done something wrong, whatever wrong is. And I'm absolutely certain that whichever degree I'm attempting, it's far too complicated for me to understand, or it's taken me too long to get the bigger picture, longer than everybody else, or I've had to go down a rabbit hole of research to understand something particularly perplexing for me, as I have to, I miss fundamental learning, actually. I have to revisit difficult concepts again and again, gaining time and gaining on each trick area again and again. But I have to accept this difference in my learning style. It's a difference, not a deficit. So let's get back to the point of today's conversation. It's about learning to learn. In fact, it's about learning to learn. That's the whole point. With my PDA, my autism, I need the firing squad to have me against the wall. I've got to be to a deadline. I have to be put into a routine, so a structure, one that I take ages to adopt. I've been developing writing these rooms for over 2 years. It began slowly, so I could only just come up with a paragraph. I used to get fearful about it, fearful about writing, presenting what I was saying. But now I can create a space where I can construct release and let this out. I have to move from sensation, that burning desire to say something. It's almost like birthing something. It's painful. It's sensorially overwhelming. That sounds really dramatic as I speak, but I speak as I create, or I create as I speak. Abracadabra means I speak into becoming. As my coach Pete taught me, I create and I speak differently, and this often creates a different interpretation. So I have to move from this sensation of something to say to the recognition of knowing what I'm trying to look at finding meaning for. I have to move to recognizing what my mind's trying to say to me. It speaks in tongues often. It speaks at a different sensory language I don't have a translation for yet. I've been working on it all my life, which is why I've been given words. Well, I don't know. In fact, I don't know why I've been given words as my processing tool when it's my body that actually processes things. It's the greatest way that I process. But my trauma cut me off from my body. This sensory exploration tool, my spaceship for exploring my environment, was removed as a child. It was removed from me. So recognizing what I've been experiencing has been impossible. And nobody taught me that anything had happened except a memory. And I've been in therapy, right? I talked about it now. It was time to move on. Well, to move from awareness that I'm differently able, to recognition that I'm autistic, to comprehension, I process this world differently to over 99% of other people. I need to understand what understanding is for the likes of me, the likes of Einstein, the likes of Stephen Hawking, who I would proffer comprehension was different. Einstein didn't see the world in the same way as we do. I do, you do. He saw relativity, the theory of relativity, as clearly as I see myself in the mirror. Often Oppenheimer, if you've seen the film, saw a different reality to the one that was known before the development of the hydrogen bomb. Reality is differently comprehended. It's subjective. Even normal perception's not normal. It's not perfect. Everyone perceives what they do. It could all be deemed as faltered. We interpret what noises and lines and what images mean from our subjective interpretation. Our shortcut is a conclusion jumping mechanism. Remember, I'm 99% different. I have a different sensory perception. It's different to others. The reason I take longer, I've learned, is that my sorting system is slow. I take a long time to create a structure. Once made, I've got to run around that structure again and again and again and again and again to get my bearings. To systematically, to somatically, to embody that process into my psyche until it becomes unconscious to me, like driving the car to the office, until it becomes second nature. My second skin, my care becomes part of me. My car becomes part of me, even and my care. But my car becomes part of me. And the destination is the next step in the process. It's just unspoken, unprocessed. It runs in the background. It's being got on with progressively without any disturbance to my current thinking. I've had to absorb these skills into my being, embody them as mine, own them, make them me. This takes time and repetition. It's then I can move on to something beyond the process of learning the basics, understanding how everybody else sees this process, this problem, and then seeing why my conclusions might be different. Now I know that I'm likely to see things differently. I'm differently able to understand why. Now that differently able term was shot down 20 years ago, moving my ability from awareness to comprehension and finally towards meaningful and functional action for me needed me to understand I was differently aware. To do this, I had to recognize for me what overwhelm was. Now, Gestalt syndrome, or sensory gating deficit, is a challenge by which what is important or what is not important at the stage of sensation is too overwhelming to understand. There are too many competing processes to sort and sift, and therefore, at this point, understanding is shrouded. certainly for me. I can't see the wood for the trees, as it were. I'm overwhelmed by the sensation of the fluorescent lights flashing. I can see that rate. I can hear that noise that children are meant to hear. Those unheard noises. When a dog whistle goes, it pricks my ears up. I can smell if you're wearing deodorant. I can probably tell you which one as well. I do know if you ate garlic last night, because it's more overwhelming than you can imagine. I have a difference in experiencing as a result of its suggested faulty wiring. My sensory gated syndrome is how I am differently able. But then again, individuals that are traumatized are also highly sensorially aware of their environment. They have to be. We have to be. I have to be. I am. I am, because it was dangerous for me not to be, actually acutely aware of all those around me. I needed it to be safe. I needed to be able to predict their next move, their next comment, the next decision, the next risk. It's why I believe traumatized folk go into social work. Often I think they'll tell themselves it's from a place of wanting to help. Yeah, help themselves. Others like them. I think it's the soul's cry to understand our trauma, to embody that which is unembodiable at the time. Releasing that trauma is re-experiencing the sensation in a safe space with a qualified and experienced practitioner. Moving from sensation to understanding, to learning, to re-experiencing with different emotions, using a different toolkit and being given those tools in a way that you can come from a new perspective, from your own understanding, not an ideology or a set of concepts given to you on a plate or in a course or in a book, but embedded ideas. So to embody or embed my learning, I first have to play Scrubopoli with it. I have to play Pokemon or Animal Crossing or whatever else you want to call it. I have to gamify it. I have to collect them all. This is why degrees are good for this. It's called a scaffold. Vygotsky said, we need a scaffold on which to pin our learning. And we're talking about belonging in business through learning this morning. And we're literally birthing this session here and now. It's probably not the last time I deliver this session, because I'm afraid the dean will be appearing at me at 8 o'clock to do an access to work assessment for somebody, as I now have overtime. But there we go. I will go on to that in a minute. We're talking about belonging through learning earlier. We're literally birthing this session. This is the third iteration of this talk, and it will go on to be much, much more. It's a progression of my understanding. You heard it here first. This, through learning, is an important part of the understanding of the whole of ourselves and the understanding of me. So, once I gamify it, and I'm aware of what it takes to play the game, I begin playing relentlessly. It's like tennis, again and again and again, until I satisfy myself I can do it without thinking. It comes naturally, some would say. Nothing natural about it. But yes, eventually it becomes embedded and I can begin. Then comes the action from the understanding. This is where I'm here in action stages. I learned about action learning 20 years ago. And today, only today, I labelled what I learned, as I'd already been doing it iteratively for 20 years, again and again and again. It just takes me longer to work out what I'm doing. So I now have an action learning group, my team, who are currently working on an iteratively defined problem, a problem I've kept on having for years and years, access to work. So this is why I began by saying this it's an hour early, because we're solving an iterative problem called access to work, who are now able to work overtime to meet the demand of our services, the ones that we've had on access to work. It's an iterative process. They're able to work overtime to meet the demand our services have had on them, not just mine, but all of them. And I've taken an iterative and sequential action learning process to resolving these processes this time. This time, we've approached governments. Inclusion has approached governments. I'm working internationally on a seamless delivery of a three-pronged approach to citizenship: our learning and wellbeing, our workfulness and service, and our understanding and learning. That's why I'm a teacher. That's why I'm a therapist. a soon-to-be social worker. That's a reminder for my 8 o'clock access to work assessment. All three of these areas are imperative. And lifespan planning, the design that I copywrote 20 years ago on the 9th of October 2003, is a process that works. I've had to reduce the time that I work one-to-one with people, and less because I have to now work with larger audiences. I have coaches to train and workers to engage. I have a team of other disabled people who are all part of inclusion and Jews on the stage with me now. I'm tirelessly fundraising, and I work endlessly to earn the money to invest in fundraising for inclusion to create the world's first funded disabled entrepreneur. They will be raised through that lifespan planning method created by me in 2003, 20 years ago. And that, in anniversary terms, is my China anniversary. Now, I was not happy when I went to see what 20 years meant, because that analogy was given to me as a child. My mum used to say, and for those of you that are old enough to remember, my mum used to say, "It's up to you, Mandy Jane. You can grow up and you can treat yourself like Woolworths Chit Chat." That's a functional plate for a few pence from Woolworths. Treat yourself like Woolworths Chit Chat, or you can treat yourself like Royal Dalton. And she'd say, "Which are you? Do you treat yourself like China or like Woolworths Chit Chat?" Well, as 99% of others do not process like me, do not learn like me, do not function like me, it is likely I am precious, delicate. I've got PDA, pathological demand avoidance tendencies, right? I'm affected by my environment, so it needs to be monitored. I need to be maintained like an orchid would be, given the right experiences, the right stimulants, the right input. So my takeaway for today is that laying the foundation for a solution involves scoping out the problem, setting out the action learning set required to solve that problem that's in front of us, the disconnect between education, between workfulness, and how it feels to grow into those areas, especially if we're differently abled, say autistic or dyslexic. Maybe we have a mental health problem, a challenge. Maybe we experience mental ill health or a lack of mental health well-being. I think that's all of us. Maybe we find ourselves lost in a society without a clue of how to find a way forwards, a way up, a way out towards the light. Well, we are working on a fund which helps others go up through that system. But for that help to be given, we literally need your help. We have hundreds of new good news stories that we can tell you in the coming months, evidencing the need for this fund and the effect of this fund. But we need to treat everyone like China. We need to treat everyone as precious, as important, because this is how, over time, even the slowest learners like me get us to finally get their ducks in a row and make a comprehensive story out of a mahoosive process called overcoming myself, apparently. My PDA tendencies, my pathological demand avoidance, my autism makes me like Popeye, who hates spinach. But learning has become, what can I describe it as? A Trojan horse, actually, for becoming, feeling like I can belong. It's like I voluntarily walk into a lion's den. The deadlines that my degrees give me that adrenaline pump. Being ready for these pretend times that I've made up, that we're going live, is like the firing squad putting me against the wall. It's like learning to dance on a tightrope, and I'm in a wheelchair. I've literally turned the tables on my PDA. I have to make the demands so extreme that avoiding it would be more painful. It's an avoidance conflict. I am the matador and the bull. Or maybe I'm the bull in the china shop, but that's another story in it for another day. I have to outwit myself to survive. And managing that internal dance was, at one time, unfathomable. maybe it is for you if you're listening to this. Now, if you can consistently do that, overcome yourself, and think you've got the recipe for acquiring skills and knowledge that make you marketable, employable, actually, crucially, a person that belongs in that field of yours, whichever one it is, your Pokemon, your Scrumpopoly, when you can build a bridge across that internal divide, when you're not just learning subject matter, you're learning how to negotiate yourself within it. I think that's the toughest negotiation anybody will ever make, but particularly me. Learning makes us valuable, not just in the marketplace of jobs, but in the marketplace of ideas. When I manage my PDA, my demand avoidance tendencies enough, I can say I belong here in this conversation, in this field, in this community. Because facing my own internal firing squad is as hard as busting through the wall in the Matrix. You can do it as long as you realise that it doesn't actually exist. Because on the other side of that wall, for me, is where I belong. Now, Einstein, back to Einstein, who also thought differently, said jokingly, I think, I hope, the only thing that interferes with my learning is my education. Well, at Accessibility Partners, I'm just going to put that up on our physical space. We are growing faster than you could ever imagine. I'm putting the GoFundMe link up there. It's www. No, it's not. I'm lying. It's gofund.me, and then a number in it's at the bottom. 2B47E356. So if you can find that, you're a greater man than I am, Gung. Then, if you are online, you can see it scrolling along the bottom of the screen. And I am Mandy Jane. I am founder, as you can see, of Accessibility Partners and Inclusion. And if you also look now at the bottom of the screen, you can see that if you want to get in touch with us about access to work, then you can do on www.a2w.me. So I'm excited to say that we have been here on our own, because actually nobody knows it's not till 8 o'clock. They all think it's 8 o'clock. They're all going to rock up 8 o'clock and realise that we haven't been here. But what can happen is that they can go back and play that on replays. The problem is that Access to Work have come and they've decided that they are doing overtime. So I am doing an Access to Work assessment at 8, and then one at 10, and then one at 12, and then, well, anyway, my Saturday is not mine. So learning makes me valuable, and also pivoting does, and being able to move and change and evolve with what's going on. But it's still not very fair that I still have to evolve and flick my my action according to whatever the government have decided. However, they have told us that they will have this backlog dealt with by Christmas, and considering we've got 150 people waiting for them, it's a good job that they are. There are people coming through. In fact, somebody just come through the door that took 2 years, but their access to work has just been awarded, which is fantastic news. We don't have long now, Jew. I have to go to work at 8 o'clock. Good morning, Trent. If you want to come up, Adam, if you want to come up, there's only 4 of us. It'll be like nobody's here. Are you there, Jew? Good morning. Can you unmic? See, I couldn't unmic earlier. Jew can't unmic now.
I think I've done it.
It's a miracle. We are both a miracle in the happening, aren't we? You've unmiked, I've unmiked, you turned up, I've turned up. We got here at some point. That'll do.
You were here early and I couldn't hear you.
I know, it's because I hadn't unmiked. I had online.
No.
I had online. I've done everything 3 times online on Twitter and Twitch, and made a right fool of myself. I hadn't unmiked, so I just repeated it again. I think I did that practice makes progress.
Well, we all have to start somewhere.
I think I've been learning, which is handy for today's subject.
Yeah.
I think I've been learning to belong through learning. Yeah.
Well, what can I say?
Well, you could say that Einstein was right, that the only thing that interferes with my learning is my education. I think it is. My education's terrible right now, and it is interfering with my learning. I have to go and do that education and then fit my learning in.
I watched Oppenheimer the other night.
Did you enjoy it?
Um,
Enjoy's the wrong word, isn't it?
Yeah, it was long.
Long. Well, I think probably the development of the atom bomb was long. I reckon the experience of people experiencing the result of it was long. So I would imagine that the film should have been. I think it was effectively long enough. Effectively long enough to make me think about what we do to ourselves and each other.
That's very deep.
I found the whole film deep. I had to watch Threads as a child at school. And actually, oh, Adam, you nearly came up. Do it again. I can't bring you up. Yes. Hang on. There we go. Trey, coming up. Yeah, it was long. And like I say, yeah, that is deep. I had to watch Threads, and Threads depicted people's skin melting off, etc. Now, this is probably not a belonging in business through learning, but learning about the propensity to which we disregard human life right now with what's going on in the world. Evidences to me that belonging is the magic source. It's the energy that keeps us together, that stops all of those horrendous happenings, in my opinion, from happening. It's the fact that we belong. But there we are. Adam, good morning. Treherne, good morning.
Good morning.
How amazing. Hey, Adam, good morning. This is your first time talking on LinkedIn, isn't it?
Quite possibly. Yes. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. It's good to see you.
Oh. Thank you. And good to see you all.
Yeah, and well. You. Trey, how are you? Might take a while, they're difficult, these. Nope, Trey can't. There we are.
There we go.
There we are. Do you know, we have somebody with advanced progressive MS that's managed to unmic, an autistic girl that's managed to unmic, somebody that's blind, and Adam as well. We've all done it. Adam's got physical challenges. We all managed to unmic. It's not easy. How are you, Treherne?
All right. How are you?
I'm very good. Very good. I'm just 15 minutes away. 15 minutes away from the first access to work assessment of the day, of course. And I think we've had 10 personal mobility devices, I think 7 or 10, something like that, authorised this week again. So they're coming through thick and fast. Yours has been authorised this week, hasn't it, Trey?
Yeah, it has been authorised this week. Thank you very much for all your help with that, MJ. And it's interesting how the access to work process helps people to learn they belong, right?
Yeah.
Because when you get the support from access to work for equipment, whether that's an Omeo or other bits, desks, computers, keyboards, whatever it might be, and strategy coaching, you learn actually you do belong in business, and you learn where you belong, and you learn how you belong as well. And I think that without the support access to work provides, we wouldn't be where we are, really.
I wouldn't.
It's an important funding stream for disabled people. And, the fact that you're working to make it better or working to make it better is such a good thing, and you just have to keep going. Even though I know at times it can be demoralising dealing with any government department. They're a bit like elephants, large and slow and with long memories.
I love that.
You have to be careful. You either get trodden on deliberately or trodden on by accident.
Yeah.
Way it still hurts.
Those analogies are beautiful. And I read somewhere why people that are neurodivergent use analogies. But I love your analogizing. Thank you, Trey. Adam, you're unmiked. He's like, we're all unmiked. I think it's a cracking way. Anybody want to feed in before we close down? Have you learned, Jew?
God, Britain needs to learn.
I said, have you learned? I've got a cold. Have you been learning, not learning? As if you had me bunged up to death. And what I'm saying is, over the last 2 years, I mean, you never even knew what access to work was, did you? Oh, yeah, you did. You had access to work. But have you learned about it even more? Because you did know about access to work.
Yes. Yeah, I've learned a lot more about it through you, and it strikes me as it hasn't got any bloody easy.
No, it hasn't, love. But we are working towards, and you're part of that, right? Remember that 2 years ago, Inclusion took this to that. We did that first petition, and it was those nearly 400 signatures that went to the office of the Deputy Prime Minister that started this whole process of the fact that they're now taking on more staff, and they're this morning, the reason that I'm having an access to work assessment in 11 minutes, 12 minutes, 13 minutes is because of you and me and Trey and Adam, because of the work that we've put in, because of the work that Andrew put in, because of the week on week we kept talking about this, because the government have had to respond, because they don't like the noise, because they don't want people like me and you talking in these ways. You know, they don't want Trey saying, I'm totally blind and nobody told me about this. They don't want Trey to say that they wrote to him by snail mail. They don't want to hear that it took 14 months for them to respond to me. You know? But we've had to get talking about it, haven't we?
Yeah.
And now we have talked about it, funnily enough. Things are happening. And one day me and Adam will have our Romeo. One day.
We will, definitely.
Yeah, we will. Absolutely we will. And there are Omeos being delivered. I think there was another 2 delivered this week to people. So I see the flow. I see it coming, and we are getting there. So even though I've got to this week with Belonging in Business, make it 7 till 8, which will just keep people on their toes, I think it's a great reason that I can say that at 8 o'clock on a Saturday, access to work are working, and they're working until 6 o'clock tonight, because we've just added an extra day to the week. And it was only a month ago that I added Saturdays to my diary. I literally added Saturdays to my diary and allowed people to start booking in. And now access to work and working on a Saturday. So Trey said last night how he sees me make reality morph into the reality I need. He sees me bringing reality into my experience, a new reality, the one that I've asked for. And there we are. We now have Saturdays and access to work. Now, if you'd said to me a year ago, access to work would be working on a Saturday, they all would have laughed at me and said they would never have done overtime on a Saturday in a million years. All of them. Now they're all have the option to do overtime on a Saturday. And I keep asking them if they're going to. And then many of them will. So this has increased the productivity, and it means that by Christmas we're going to have even more Romeos through the gate and across the finishing line. So I'm proud to say that Belonging in Business, Inclusion, Accessibility Partners together, we are forging forward, speaking to the right people. I was at the British Association of Social Workers yesterday before the day, just after the Social Working Union conference on Thursday, and their plan, their annual plan, really does fit in line with inclusion and the plans that we have for our future. So I think they are listening. You're right, Jew. I can hear you.
I am.
Didn't know whether you were talking or not. Couldn't decide. Okay, guys. Well, I am going to stop being on social media all over the place and say that we've made it to almost the hour. I'm going to give myself a few minutes. The GoFundMe link is at the bottom of this live on Facebook, etc. If you want to donate or share, if you want to get in touch, our website is now scrolling along the bottom: www.a number 2 w access number 2 work.me, access to work me. If you want to do that, and if you want to join inclusion and really fight the good fight, then our website is across the bottom there. That's just www.inclusion.me. So yeah, if you want to be included, then go to inclusion.me. If you want to get access to work, then go to a2 number 2 w.me. And if you'd like to donate, or you're going to be able to share that link, we are not very far away from our first disabled entrepreneur, who I would like to award that by Christmas. That would be great. And we're already at the 28th of October. You've been an amazing, amazing, amazing audience and participants. I'm sorry this has been early. Cherito, it's lovely to see you. We are going to be back to our 8 o'clock slot, I believe, next weekend for Belonging in Business. But we had to come early because Access to Work have decided they're going to do overtime. So we're going to go and do overtime with them, because we are forever going to fight the good fight. Whatever they say, even if they want to see me at 2 in the morning, I'm going to be fighting the good fight in whatever way Access to Work want to frame it. So I'm off to help some people get some personal mobility devices under their bum, to provide some strategy coaching, and to get them the equipment, the support that they need to access and remain in work. And remember that you only need to be working for 1 paid hour a week in order to be entitled to access to work. You can be self-employed, you can be a business owner, you can be a self-employed business director, you can have your own limited company, or you can just be a sole trader. You can work for somebody else, and indeed you can be employed for 1 hour a week, and you will be entitled to apply. You can have a mental health problem, a learning difference, a neurodivergence, or a physical disability, and none of those need to be medically proven to access to work. You just need to present them with your symptoms, which is the effect of disability when something affects you for longer than 6 months. So you have been in Belonging in Business. We've been talking about belonging in business through learning, and I am Mandy Jane. I'm a Senko and Elenko in Wales. I'm a special educational needs coordinator, a psychotherapist, and a trainee social worker. I'm working towards global inclusion. It is the global pandemic that you want to be part of. And if you want to donate to the fund, please do so. And we will be back next weekend at 8 o'clock on Saturday with Belonging in Business. Take care, everybody else. Everybody, including me.
Bye.
Take care. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.